You are now listening to the sounds of Dr. B's Spot, a production of Bowden Enterprise Services, LLC. Join the podcast where love and life topics are discussed surrounding spiritual connection, relationships, finance, and becoming a better you through elevation. And now, here's your host, spiritual advisor and behavioral health clinician, Dr. B.
Welcome back to another session of Dr. B's Spot, Love and Life. We are in Season 4 once again. This is the podcast where we talk about all things love, life, and spirituality. I'm your host, your spiritualist, your intuitive healer, Dr. B. We are back in business and back in action. Thank you for joining me once again, listening to the content. It's always appreciated. Now, let's jump to it. Let's get into today's topic called The Silent Observers, Why Strangers Cheer and Friends Stay Clear. Who's really watching? Let me start with a question. Have you ever noticed how the loudest support often comes from people who you've never ever met, while the ones you know, the ones who should cheer the loudest, stay eerily quiet? This isn't just a coincidence. Today we're diving deep into the phenomenon of silent observers, the nosy people who watch from the sidelines, rarely clap, and sometimes secretly hope you fail. But let's not stop there. I also want to honor the genuine strangers who unexpectedly become our biggest cheerleaders. Let's break it all down together. Let's look at the watchers in your life. Here's the thing about watchers. They fall into 3 distinct categories. First, they are the people you know, friends, family, acquaintances, who see everything you're doing but say nothing. These are the ones who might scroll past your posts, ignore your wins, and maybe even gossip about you. Second, they are the nosy ones who don't really care about your journey but still monitor you like their favorite TV show. They're not watching to support you, they're watching to critique, judge, or simply satisfy their curiosity. Finally, they are the strangers, the ones who you never met, but who somehow believe in you more than those you've known for years. Why does this happen? It's all about comfort zones. People you know often see your growth as a mirror reflecting their own insecurities. Strangers, on the other hand, see only your value because they're not clouded by personal history or jealousy. Let's look at the psychology of silence. Let's unpack why the people you know often remain quiet. For some, it's fear that your success might eclipse their own fears, or fear that they'll lose the version of you they're comfortable with. Others might feel envy or inadequacy because your growth highlights where they've stalled. And then there are those who are simply indifferent. It's important to remember that silence doesn't always mean hatred or negativity. Sometimes it's just a lack of understanding. They might not know how to support you or why it even matters. But let's be real. For many, it's easier to ignore your success than to celebrate it. Now, let's recognize what genuine support is. Let's shift to the strangers who support you or show up for you. Isn't it amazing how someone who's never met you can see your value so clearly? These are the people who like, share, and comment, give compliments to you for your efforts. Provide positive feedback on your work. The ones who send you encouragement when you need it most. They don't have preconceived notions about you, and they don't carry the baggage of your past. This is where you find your tribe, not always in the people you grew up with, but in those who resonate with the version of you that's growing and thriving. These strangers remind you that support doesn't have to come from familiar faces. Now, how you deal with nosy observers. Okay, we have the nosy ones, the watchers, who aren't rooting for you. These people are like detectives, piercing together your life from breadcrumbs. You didn't even realize you left those breadcrumbs behind. They're not here to celebrate you. They're here to collect data, to dissect your every move, and maybe even to hope for your downfall. So how do you handle them? First, protect your energy. You don't owe anyone access to your life. Be mindful of what you share and who you share it with. Second, remember that their attention, negative or not, is still an acknowledgement of your impact. If they're watching, it's because you're doing something worth watching. Now, let's look at turning silence into motivation. Here's the powerful truth. Even the silent ones are part of your audience. Whether they clap or not, they're watching. And that means you're already making waves. Use their silence as fuel. Let it remind you that your words speak louder than their words ever could. When you feel discouraged, remember this. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing it because it's your purpose. The right people will align with you eventually, but until then, keep moving forward. Let me leave you with a little bit more drops for your thoughts. A few more words of advice before we move to the next segment. Not everyone watching you is cheering, but that's okay. Celebrate the strangers who show up. Forgive the silence of those who don't. And keep creating and accepting those around you who truly need you. Your light will always attract both moths and flames. Just focus on the ones who keep you warm. Now, I want to go into a dive of who's watching and why it matters. I want to dive into something real. And then ask about how you've poured your heart or energy into people, giving your all. And then you watch as they disappear the moment you needed them most. It's a hard truth to swallow. See, the people you expect to cheer for you often stay silent, while strangers, the people you never met, become your loudest supporters. Let me go into a story. I had an older friend, a kind, selfless woman who gave everything she had to others. She was the kind of person who poured herself out for people, hoping to be accepted and welcomed. She supported, served, and loved until there was nothing left of herself. But as her well ran dry, so did her so-called friendships. One day I asked her, "Where's your best friend? How is she?" This was a best friend of nearly 40 years. A woman she had loved like a sister, even naming her the godmother to her children. And do you know what she told me? She didn't know. At some point, the calls stopped coming, and eventually she stopped calling too. There was no reciprocation, no effort to maintain the bond from someone she held so dear. Years passed, and my friend passed away. It's been some time now that she's crossed over to the other side, some years as well. When I saw the comments on her obituary, guess who was mourning the loudest? The same best friend who had turned her back on her. The one who stopped calling. The one who claimed to love her, but didn't even show up when it mattered most. Do you think her grief was real? No, 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 no. That was guilt, shame, and disappointment in her own actions. She wasn't mourning the loss of a friend. She was mourning the loss of the opportunity to make things right. Let's look at the lessons we learned. See, that story taught me something I'll never forget. Don't waste your time with the fake and phony. Life is too short to have people in your circle who pretend to support you but secretly want to ride your coattails. You can give your all, but for some people it will never be enough. And let me tell you, that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to value you. Don't downplay yourself or dim your light just to lift someone else up. When someone turns their back on you, don't chase them. Don't beg them to stay. That door they try to close in your face, let them close it, because here's the truth. They'll never meet another you. They'll never experience another version of you. And someday, whether it's tomorrow or years from now, they'll regret their actions. Now, the power of genuine connections. Let's talk about the flip side of this. While some people stay silent or turn away, there are others, strangers, people you've known, met, who will cheer for you like they've known you forever. There are the people who see your value without the baggage of personal history or jealousy. Why do strangers support you more than friends? It's simple. They don't see your growth as a threat. They don't feel entitled to your time, energy, or success. They're rooting for you because they genuinely believe in you. And that kind of support is pure. So, when you find those people, those strangers who feel like family, hold on to them, celebrate them. They're a reminder that love and support can come from the most unexpected places. Now, how you protect your energy and by standing strong. Here's my advice. Protect your energy. Don't waste your time lying or trying to win over people who've already decided not to show up for you. Focus on those who truly have your back, whether they're longtime friends or newfound supporters. And when someone tries to take your power, stand firm. They might try to tear you down, close doors, and make you feel small. But remember, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting their own inability to rise to your level. See, that mirror is turned around. It's facing them while they're looking at you. But the mirror's in front of them. They're seeing their self. You are irreplaceable. Your value isn't how many people clap for you, but in the legacy you leave behind. And let me tell you, the impact you make will outlast the applause of the fake and phony. Choose real love, always. To everyone listening, let this be a reminder. Real love doesn't walk away. Real friends don't turn their back when times get tough. Surround yourself with people who pour into you as much as you pour into them. You don't want this to be a one-sided event, one-sided life of just you giving and they give minimal. You want it to be equal. Your life and relationships, whether in friendships or whether in love relationships, should be on an equal playing field, not one-sided, where you're doing the most while they give the less. Understand? Good. So as I was saying, you surround yourself with people who pour into you as much as you pour into them. And when the silent observers, the nosy onlookers, and the fake friends try to take up space in your life, let them go. See, you deserve more than empty relationships. You deserve genuine support, honest love, and people who celebrate your victories as if they were their own. Now, let's look at the legacy and impact of guilt and regret in relationships. Let's talk about legacy. Legacy isn't about how much you've accumulated or even how much you've given. It's about the impression you leave on the hearts of others. When you live authentically, pour it into those who truly matter, and staying true to yourself, your legacy speaks louder than any words. But here's the thing. Legacy doesn't just impact the people who loved and valued you. It also impacts those who turn their backs on you. When someone wrongs you, the memory of your goodness lingers far longer than their bad behavior. They'll replay your kindness, your sacrifices, and your love long after you moved on and left this earth. That's why it's so important to live in a way that reflects your worth. Your value isn't diminished by someone's failure to appreciate you. In fact, it shines even brighter because when you walk away from toxicity and surround yourself with genuine love, you're creating a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same. The weight of guilt and regret. Let's address this guilt and regret. These emotions are powerful and they often surface too late. When my friend passed away, her so-called best friend was drowning in guilt. She was grieving, yes, but it wasn't the kind of grief that comes from losing someone you love deeply. It was the kind of grief that comes from realizing you failed someone who once loved you deeply. Guilt has a way of amplifying the truth. It makes people reflect on their actions or lack thereof and confront the reality of what they've lost. Regret is its partner whispering, you could have done better. You should have done better. But here's the harsh truth. By the time guilt and regret show up, it's often too late to make amends. That's why it's so important to recognize who's in your corner now. If someone shows you they can't reciprocate your love, respect, or effort, believe them. Don't wait for them to get it someday. Let them sit with the consequences of their actions. Why your legacy is more valuable than their apology. See, when people treat you poorly, they often think they're in control of the narrative. But here's the beauty of living authentically. Your legacy outlives their bitterness. You may walk away, but they'll never forget the light you brought to their life. And even if they try to dismiss your worth in the moment, your absence will speak louder than anything else. The absence will remind them of everything they took for granted. And guess what? They'll suffer behind their actions. Even if they don't admit it out loud, the guilt will stay with them. The regret will follow them. And you'll keep shining, growing, building a legacy that's untouchable. Now, the power of moving forward without closure. See, sometimes we crave closure. We want an apology, an explanation, or even an acknowledgement of the pain someone caused. But closure doesn't always come, and that's okay. You don't need their apology to move forward. I hope you know that. Their actions or lack thereof are their burden to carry, not yours. See, your power lies in how you respond. You have the choice to let go, to rise above, and to focus on the people who truly value you. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop chasing closure and start prioritizing your peace, you're creating a legacy of resilience. You're showing the world and yourself that your worth isn't tied to anyone's validation. Here's my final thoughts. Letting your legacy speak for you. As I reflect on my friend's story, I realized this. Her legacy wasn't defined by the people who failed her. It was defined by her kindness, her strength, and the love she gave freely. The person who betrayed her, that's their story to reconcile, not hers. So as you move through life, remember this. Your value isn't diminished by someone else's inability to see it. Your legacy isn't about who claps for you. It's about the light you leave behind. Let their guilt and regret be their lesson, not your burden. And let your legacy speak so loudly that even those who turned away can't ignore the mark you left on this world. Thank you for tuning in to Dr. B's Spot, Love and Life. I hope this message has reached you positively. If you've enjoyed this episode and it resonated with you, share it with someone who needs an understanding. Until next time, I'll catch you on the next episode. Be blessed with less stress. Much love, Dr. B, and I'm out.